There's a lot of variation between the outer circle English and the inner circle English in discourse style. This variation can be observed both at the micro level and the macro level, which means that we see this variation at the level of the structure of a text and also in the subparts of the text, for example, paragraphs, sentence construction, use of vocabulary, etc. One aspect of the discourse of the outer circle English is the use of formal language, in fact, an overuse of formal language. The outer circle speakers of English show a tendency to use formal language even when it is not required, when it is completely unnecessary. They also tend to use very complex vocabulary. They would use flowery language, high-sounding words in situations where the use of such vocabulary would be completely unnecessary. Not only vocabulary, the non-native speakers of English from outer and expanding circle countries also show a preference for a more complex grammar. And they also use lengthy constructions. They use a cyclical kind of structure as compared to the native speakers whose structure in writing, especially, is more linear than cyclical. Another area of discourse where the two kinds of Englishes, that is the outer circle and inner circle, are different is in the use of different expressions of, let's say, thankfulness, apology, etc. The outer circle's users of English tend to overuse the expressions where, for example, they have to say one word, they would say three. And this redundancy of expressions is seen in the expression of thanks, apologies. For example, we all are familiar with these expressions because we hear them around us all the time. Thank you so much, thank you very much, thank you so very much, as if only thank you so much wasn't enough. Same goes for I'm sorry, I'm very sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so very sorry. And then they use lengthy constructions, as we've already said, very complex kind of sentences, lots of subordinate clauses, and use a lot of deferential vocabulary. And also a very characteristic feature of the outer circle discourse is the use of blessings. All these features that we see in the outer circle English are a result of the influence of the indigenous cultures. We show a lot of deference to a large number of people in the society. For example, we show a lot of deference to elders, we show a lot of deference to people who are elderly, we show a lot of deference to, let's say, teachers, older siblings, etc. Similarly, giving each other blessings is also a very characteristic cultural feature of the outer circle countries. So may God give you a long life, may you have a long happy life, etc. So the use of these blessings is also very common in the outer circle English. Let's take a look at some examples from some authentic examples from the outer circle English users. I'm bubbling with zeal and enthusiasm to serve as a research assistant. A person may be pleased to have been appointed as a research assistant, but bubbling with zeal and enthusiasm, of course, is showing a redundancy of expressions. Similarly, I offer myself as a candidate for the post of a research assistant, as if you're offering yourself at an altar. So this again is a redundant expression, offering yourself for a post only. And this, the next example, we are so familiar with it, especially those who are teachers of English. Despite so many years of freedom, we see these examples which can be called colonial lag. the use of language which perhaps was taught by the colonial masters to the people of India. Then, of course, we had India. So we still see the influence of the use of that language on the use of English even now. So with due respect, I beg to state, often people would start their letters with this statement. Instead of coming straight to the point, they would first of all beg the reader. Similarly, people often sign off their letters as your obedient servant. So this is an overdoing of deference and politeness and formality. Another area which is different in the outer circle English from the inner circle English is greetings and leave taking. And again, this variation has taken place because of the direct translation from indigenous languages. So we have a greeting like "So how," which is Sri Lankan English. "You are enjoying," that's Nigerian English. "Have you eaten already?" is Singaporean and Malaysian English. And then how now is West African English, and "are you all right" in place of "how are you" is East African English. So we see that there is a lot of variation in discourse styles as well between the outer circle English and the inner circle English.